charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration's Rocky Mountain Division. Marv Massey, the acting special agent in charge of the FBI's Denver Division.
Around 4:12 a.m. local time, dozens of armed FBI, DEA, ICE, and DHS officers stormed into the International Arrivals Terminal at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Travelers waiting for early flights froze. Heavy boots slammed against the marble floor. Radios crackled. Suitcases crashed to the ground. Children cried. At the center of this chaos stood a group of 6 students with what looked like ordinary luggage. Seconds later, handcuffs snapped onto their wrists, and the calm nighttime terminal turned into the scene of a raid against Venezuelan cartel networks previously mentioned only in border news reports. The real horror was discovered a short time later in the cargo zone. Inside one of the modified cargo containers, officers found 2 teenage girls, dehydrated, terrified, hidden like merchandise. Within minutes, federal analysts had no doubt. Today in Texas, authorities had exposed a student-run drug and human trafficking channel tied to Venezuelan criminal structures that have long been trying to establish themselves in the U.S. through such gray schemes. As it later turned out, this airport, along with several other locations across Texas, had been under covert surveillance for nearly 3 weeks. Homeland Security analysts had been monitoring encrypted chats on the phones of several students from Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. There were no discussions about classes, parties, or exams. Instead, the messages contained phrases like, "The cargo cleared inspection," "The window on line 3 is open," "Pick up at baggage belt 2, no delays." For an ordinary reader, these lines meant nothing, but for federal operatives, it looked like coded updates about the movement of goods through airport corridors. The same chats also recorded crypto wallet transfers and anonymous payment service logs, a familiar signature of Venezuelan cartel networks, which have long combined traditional drug logistics with digital concealment. The trigger for today's raid was a single piece of luggage moving through a cargo scanner under the tag student baggage. A security officer noticed that the suitcase was far too heavy for a solo trip, and on the X-ray image the contents looked layered, dense, deliberately structured. The alert was sent to an improvised FBI command post inside the airport's restricted zone. Within minutes, special response teams took over the checkpoints, sealing approaches to the targeted gates. The terminals in Dallas, Houston, and Austin simultaneously switched to high alert mode. The operation received the code name Sky Corridor and was officially classified as a strike against Venezuelan cartel infrastructure operating on U.S. soil. When agents approached the group of students near one of the gates, the masks dropped instantly. One of the guys tried to sprint into the restroom with his carry-on. Another student attempted to shove her suitcase into a service trash chute, and a third simply collapsed onto the floor the moment he saw the FBI and DEA patches. Their reaction said more than any confession. When the luggage was opened under the harsh terminal lights, brick-wrapped packets of narcotics gleamed inside. Agents found fentanyl pills hidden in bottles labeled as vitamins and sports supplements, heroin wrapped in materials designed to reduce visibility on scanners, dozens of fake passports and student IDs, several burner phones, cash neatly tucked between the pages of textbooks, a laptop displaying a map of the United States, with blinking markers on various Texas airports and neighboring states connected by routes. But the clearest warning came from the K-9 team in the cargo area. One cargo unit, labeled as technical equipment, triggered an immediate alert. The lock on the container had been freshly re-rolled and fingerprints were visible around it. When the door was opened, officers found 2 girls around 14 years old inside. They were shaking and barely able to speak. The picture investigators began to assemble turned out to be coldly calculated. Recruitment into the network didn't happen in dark alleys. Everything looked clean and digital. Posts on student forums, closed Telegram and Discord channels, messages like, "Looking for a logistics assistant, flexible hours, high pay, travel opportunities." The cartel targeted those drowning in tuition and rent debt, young people with good English, valid visas, and spotless records. The first tasks seemed harmless. Pick up a parcel at one airport, drop off a suitcase at another, meet a relative, and help with their luggage. No weapons, no visible drugs. Then came the hooks and threats. "We know where you live. We have a copy of your passport and student ID. If you refuse, we'll put the blame on you." Some students continued out of fear, others out of greed. A single run on the Houston-Dallas-San Antonio route could bring in money their parents worked months to earn. Another category included students in aviation, cybersecurity, and forensics programs. They were pulled in deeper. Tracking TSA and security shift schedules. Identifying blind zones in video surveillance and Wi-Fi. Noting which screening lines were overloaded and where it was easiest to blend into the flow. The cartel provided them with textbooks in the form of PDF files disguised as travel guides. These explained how to position luggage to make it seem light, how to behave during screening, and what phrases to use if questioned too much. The worst part was that some students didn't even realize they were involved in human trafficking. They were told to escort minors to their gate, help someone who got lost, or walk a niece to the proper terminal. Others knew perfectly well that the cargo containers held living people, but chose not to ask questions. For them, a $10,000 flight was worth more than someone's life. After the early morning arrests at the airport, the chain didn't end there. Analyzing the phones, laptops, and flash drives led agents to a warehouse building roughly 30 kilometers from Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Drone thermal imaging showed dozens of heat signatures inside, people moving through narrow corridors and cramped rooms. At 6:22 a.m., a convoy of FBI and DEA armored vehicles, accompanied by local sheriff's departments, approached the site. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary abandoned warehouse. A faded sign, boarded up windows, a rusted metal door. The moment the breach team hit the entrance, gunfire erupted from the upper platforms. Flashbangs answered the attack. Tactical teams advanced between racks stacked with pallets. A separate section contained narrow steel boxes, tiny windowless rooms where human trafficking victims were kept. Among them were teenagers, young women, some transported from other states only recently. Once the scale of the operation was confirmed, federal leadership escalated the mission. Sky Corridor was no longer just an airport raid. It became a statewide purge. Over the next 48 hours, agents moved through student dorms and apartments in Dallas, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio, employee parking lots at multiple airports, warehouse terminals near cargo zones, abandoned motels used as human transit points, education centers, and language schools that were, in reality, control and distribution nodes. By this evening, 142 individuals have been arrested, more than 80 students, from top engineering majors to athletes and regular kids. 19 airport employees who ignored scanner alerts or altered inspection logs. Several workers from visa and immigration services involved in document forgery. Around 20 direct Venezuelan cartel liaisons who coordinated the flows through Texas. A separate shock came from the arrest of a 22-year-old aviation student who helped adjust flight manifests so that living people would end up in cargo compartments as luggage. During interrogation, he said only, "It was just money. I didn't think anyone was actually getting hurt." But the testimonies of rescued victims left no doubt that the harm was both deadly and systematic. One girl told an agent, "They said it would be safe, that students would take us to a new place." Nearby, investigators found a thick binder containing a list of over 200 student names.